Whenever thinking of buying a new tablet, people usually goes with the iPad, but that's the thing in the past. Ever since using the new Galaxy Tab S11 Ultra, I think that Android tablet in 2025 has somewhat surpassed the iPad in certain aspects. But on the other hand, the M4 iPad Pro is still one of the bleeding edge piece of technologies, a thin sheet of glass that can do so many things. Honestly, comparing these two is really tough because both are amazing. I spent days to playing and testing around with them, and after a few weeks of use, I finally have the answer of what is the better to buy. Now stick to the end of the videos to find out, okay? And hey, welcome back to ThinkView, and this is NK. Now, let's get started. Now first, let's have a look at the price. For the M4 iPad Pro, I would take the 13-inch version, okay? And it costs around $1,200 which is about the same with the Galaxy Tab S11 Ultra. And keep in mind that the M4 iPad Pro doesn't come with a pen. It also doesn't have a nano texture anti-glare coating display option unless you go for the 1TB model, which costs a whopping $2,000. Meanwhile, for the Tab S11 Ultra, it already comes with somewhat of anti-glare coating by default. So yeah, Apple clearly priced the M4 iPad Pro much higher, which is kinda in the expectation zone. And later on in today's video, if I talk too much good word on the iPad, don't call me an iFan, okay? But let's stick to the end of the video to see which I really choose, okay? When you first look at both screens, they are easily among the best out there. A little fun fact is that Samsung is even the panel supplier for both iPhone and iPad, so display quality is both stunning, and it will even please the pickiest user. But if you compare them side by side, the M4 iPad Pro tandem OLED panel still has some slight advantages. For example, the first one is brightness. Both are rated as 1000 nits indoor and 1600 nits outdoor. You will notice this most in HDR content when the iPad stays bright across the whole screen, giving you a better contrast between light and dark area. When watching sunset, sky, or skin tones under sunlight, everything pops slightly more vividly on the iPad. Now that's for display quality. Next is anti-glare coating. If you compare the regular iPad Pro, which doesn't have the nano texture, to the Tab S11 Ultra, Samsung is actually less reflective. But if we're talking about the nano texture iPad, it's on another level. Practically no reflection at all. If you shine a bright light source on the screen, that light will get turned down nearly 90%. Now moving on to the last thing about the display is the aspect ratio. I find that the 4:3 aspect ratio on the iPad is actually more practical. You can use it like vertically or horizontally very easily. On the other hand, the Tab S11 Ultra has the 16:10 screen, so it's much wider, so it will be better suited for landscape use, which is why Samsung even placed the front camera on the long edge to encourage the user to use it horizontally. Now, talking about the display, we have to mention the pen, because on tablet, you will be using them a lot. In terms of build, I prefer the Apple Pencil Pro because it's thicker, feels more solid, and is more premium than the S Pen. But when it comes to writing or drawing, I actually prefer the S Pen. The tip is actually softer and easier to control than the Pencil Pro here, especially for handwriting or touching fine details. So if Android has better drawing apps like a pro level one, I believe that many creators would actually prefer the Tab S11 Ultra. But right now, software is still Apple's biggest advantage. I will talk more about that in a little bit. But with the new One UI 8, both pens can now show the color palette. On the Apple Pencil, you squeeze the pen, and on the S Pen, you press the side button. To me, I think that Apple method feels more modern with haptic feedback, while Samsung is more classic. Now talking about the audio, I think that this is where the Tab S11 Ultra win. Both have 4 speakers, but the speaker on the Tab S11 Ultra seem more louder and clearer. Both the treble and bass are much better than the iPad. The cherry on top is that it doesn't even distort at max volume. For security, the M4 iPad Pro has Face ID, the Tab S11 Ultra has 2D face unlock and an in-display fingerprint sensor. Personally, I think that the Face ID on the iPad is more secure and more accurate. The in-display fingerprint is somewhat hard to use, especially for a big tablet like this one. Now, one of the biggest puzzle pieces is how powerful is this tablet. Well, the Tab S11 Ultra runs the Dimensity 9400 Plus, while the M4 iPad Pro uses the Apple M4 chip, basically a desktop class chip. And honestly, the Dimensity cannot match the M4 in both CPU and GPU. You can see the Geekbench score here. And even if the Tab has as powerful chip as the iPad, Android tablets don't yet have the apps that fully utilize the power. Apple, on the other hand, has been preparing this for years. They brought PC-level apps like Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro to the iPad OS. They are even planning to support ray tracing games on iPad and iPhone in 2026. How insane is that? Meanwhile, Android tablets still face a software bottleneck. Most mobile apps and games are still too underpowered to really take the full advantage of these powerful chips. That said, in gaming like PUBG or Delta Force, both are super smooth with only a few FPS difference, not noticeable at all. Now next is about the software, which I think is the most important part of any tablet. If hardware is how the story begins, then software is how it's finished. And iPad OS still has the better overall story here. Like you can create separate workspace for work, study, and entertainment, and when you connect to an external monitor, the layout just reappears again. I mean, you can customize everything to suit your needs. I already made a tutorial video about that before, you can check it out. Also, iPadOS supports 4K, 5K, and even 6K external display without compatibility issue, while the Tab S11 Ultra only supports up to 2K output. Plus, as I mentioned, iPadOS runs PC-level apps and games, something Android cannot do yet. In terms of ecosystem, both are doing some great job. Whichever feature that iPadOS has, Tab S11 Ultra has their own version, which we have fully covered here. Okay, so if you ask me which tablet is better, it's definitely the M4 iPad Pro. But if you ask me which tablet is actually worth buying, well, that's another question. Because worth buying is depending on your budget, your needs, and your devices. Let me explain it in this way. If this circle represents most people's tablet needs, then the Tab S11 Ultra already covered that area perfectly. And then the M4 iPad Pro goes beyond that, covering not only everyday user, but also professional use. But how many people actually need that pro-level performance? Well, probably just a few. Most users who need more power would just get a laptop anyway. Another key factor is that what devices you already use. If you are an iPhone or MacBook user, then go with an iPad, easy choice. But if you are an Android or Windows user, then the Tab S11 Ultra is a solid choice, because Samsung ecosystem now works very smoothly without any hiccups. And that's about the M4 iPad Pro and the Galaxy Tab S11 Ultra, two of the best tablets on the market right now. But what is your choice? Let me know in the comment section down below, okay? Now, thanks for watching. This is NK from ThinkView, and see you guys next time.